Hi, welcome back. This is What's the Story podcast, and it's me, Elise here. Thank you so much for coming back. If you came back, you're an angel. To my real friend Craft, you're an angel. I know you'll always come back. So big shout out to you, and to everyone else who comes back always. Or if it's your first time, thank you so much for tuning in. This is What's the Story podcast, where we share about life, faith, and culture. So today we're going to be talking about stop gossiping. Literally stop gossiping. We're going to talk about what is gossip, and we will see how to identify gossip, when you're in situations where people are gossiping or you yourself are gossiping. And then what to do when someone starts gossiping around you, like what do you do? And why do people gossip? We need to dive deep into the reasons why gossip exists in the first place. And we're also going to see how to stop gossip. We don't want to be part of that because it's just not good. And I know it's like a big thing. And the majority of people struggle with it intentionally or unintentionally. Either way, it's still gossip, and we need to identify it and stop it, basically. So without further ado, let's get started. So what is gossip? I think that's the basic thing. Number one, what is gossip? Gossip is basically sharing private or personal information about someone, often without their consent, without them being in the room, and that can necessarily damage their reputation. And sometimes you just want to fuel rumors, when there are things going on and people are saying things, and you just want to fuel rumor, or just for entertainment. Honestly, we all agree that talking about someone, especially bad things about them, it feels good. It just feels good. You feel a sense of I'm better than them. So that's gossip basically. And sometimes it involves half truths. Sometimes we're speculating things that are not necessarily 100% true, and the majority of times we just want to tear down the person, or just to make sure that person is judged, or just to tear them down and bring them down. So that's basically gossip. That's the definition of gossip. And the thing is, sometimes gossip can be harmful, sometimes it's neutral, and sometimes you're just talking about someone in a good way. So for example, if you say someone they've got a new job, it's not anything to tear them down. You're necessarily speaking about the person who is not in the room, but that's not necessarily gossip because it's just positive and there's nothing wrong. And that means if that person was in the room and you were sharing about them, you would be okay speaking about that when they're around. So that's positive. And when you're talking about someone who's not with you, who's not in the conversation, and it's negative, sometimes it's something intended to harm their reputation. When you talk about a person who's not with you while you're talking about them, and it's about something they've done or something you've heard that they did in a bad way to harm their reputation, or if your conversation is going to harm that person's reputation, then that's gossip and it's harmful. And you can identify gossip as soon as the person starts So you're like in a conversation, you're speaking with someone, la 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 la, and then the person goes like, have you known, I heard this and that, and then you hear them say something bad about another person. That's gossip. Like in all its forms and ways, that's gossip. Because you're speaking about something that is negative to the person you're talking about. And sometimes you just gotta ask yourself, is what I'm saying true? If it's true, how do I know? And is it my story to tell? Like, am I the rightful person to be sharing this information? And if the answer is no, then just keep quiet. Just shut your mouth. Don't spread, don't spread anything. It's not good to spread bad news, even if you have, the things you're saying are true, and just keep quiet. Like, don't share it. Like, there's nothing wrong with not sharing. It's even better to not share, the bad things about others that you just like, you keep quiet and not share that bad thing that happened, And if the information is inaccurate and you know for sure that it's inaccurate, that's even more reason to not share it and just like keep it to yourself. And if it's based on assumptions, or your opinion on some of their actions, just don't share anything. Keep your opinion to yourself. And sometimes it's just like speaking to your friend, you have maybe someone you trust, you guys know that it will stay in between you guys. It's still gossip, and don't have comments about other people's life with your friend. Just like speak about other things, speak about other life matters. Don't just like engage in conversations with some people. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, by no means. I also know that in my life sometimes I share bad things about others with my friends, and it's not necessarily out of a bad heart. It's just like, when you sit with your friends, you're like, oh, you guys, have you seen this? Like, do you know? And it just like comes out of a place of like, updating others on what is going on. But if it's bad, then in my opinion, I just feel like it's gossip, and that's inappropriate. We should just like not share anything negative about others, even if it's with your friend and your trusted friend. And then sometimes when you have a problem, say for example, I have a problem with my colleague at work, for example, and I'm there sharing about my problem with another person, so I have a problem with my workmate, but I go home and I'm telling all my friends, oh, this person is so horrible, they're doing this and that to me, blah blah blah. That's gossip. Basically, just go and have closure with your workmate and say, hey, I have a problem. Why is this and that and this and that in our work environment? This needs to change, like address the situation instead of going and speaking to other people about that problem. Because you speaking to your friend about your work problem, it's not solving anything. The next day you'll go back to work and the problem will still be there. So basically, you're not adding any value to the situation. That if you go and confront the person, your workmate, and be like, hey, we need to solve this problem between us, we need to get peace between us, then probably there will be improvement on your work environment. So that's how we should actually like react, instead of go ahead and share about problems with others. That's not, unless you're maybe asking for advice. If you're asking for advice, then that's fine, but mind the tone. When someone is gossiping, And when someone is asking advice in a problem, those are two different tones. Because when I'm asking for a problem, I come with an open-minded tone. I'm not necessarily, bad mouthing the person I have a problem with. I ask advice by saying something like, hey, I have a problem and I need help on this. This is what's going on, and I think this person is in the wrong. I need your advice. So you're basically open-minded. But when you're gossiping, it's different, because then you go and say, hey, that person did this, da 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 da, he's a terrible person, I just cannot take it, I'm done. The tone is different. So when you're asking for advice, it's fine, but you have an open-mindedness. And when you're in a situation where someone approaches you and they start gossiping, what you can do is like redirect the conversation. So if I'm sitting down chilling and then someone comes in, or I receive a call like, hey, this and that, have you seen that person? I can just go ahead and redirect the conversation, to something completely different and out of topic, and let the conversation go that way. Or just say something like, I'd rather not discuss this thing. It's just personal to the people we're talking about, and or say something like, I don't feel comfortable, talking about someone when they're not here. Something like that, Or you can just like ask questions, like, what would you say such a thing if the person was here? Because then that challenges the person who's gossiping to actually shut their mouth and not continue, bad mouthing others. Or something like, is this helpful to talk about? Does this help us in any way? That means you're a straightforward person and you're very serious about your life, and it will save you so much drama and so much stress and trouble, basically, because you're like, hey, this is not helpful to talk about. Or you might even say something positive about that person, like when they're telling you bad things about that person, say something like, for example, if someone is telling you a story about the problem, you might say something like, I think that person maybe is also going through a lot, so you might as well just understand her. Say something positive about them, because then it will redirect the conversation into talking positively about them. So yeah, why do people gossip then? Why to have gossip in the first place? And I think it's not about male or female. It's just like a human thing. I feel like everyone gossips, whether they're male, whether they're female, whether they're old or young, everyone gossips. And it's not about females or males. That's just my opinion. And I think the majority of people, the society, will say something like, all girls are dramatic, they'll be gossiping more than boys, or something like females are very dangerous and all. But I think that narrative is wrong, because the thing is, females are more open than males. That's just a fact. And it's natural for them to speak out their heart and their feelings and emotions than men. But that does not mean that men gossip less than females. Maybe it's more predominantly visible in female relationships because they're just open about everything, and they're basically like open books. But that does not erase the fact that everyone gossips. That's just my opinion. If you don't agree, let's like put it in the comments, find me there, but that's just my opinion. And the point is, we should stop gossiping whether or not with females or males. That's just the point. That's like the bottom line. And why people gossip, it just like creates a false sense of bonding, especially when you both have the same point of view or opinion on that bad person. You guys feel like you're friends, and then secondly, it can be a form of entertainment. It just feels good and engaging and exciting when you are hearing stories about others, even when they're not true. And then sometimes it's just rooted in insecurity and jealousy. Some people are just so jealous to the point where they'll gossip about others just to feel better about themselves, or they're just like not happy at the achievement the other person has, and they're just jealous and they'll start gossiping about them. And then it can also be to manipulate people's perceptions of a person. So for example, I might come and gossip about a person with my friends so that my friends will think the person we're gossiping about is a certain type of person, when it's not true. So basically, I just want to control or influence their point of views to that person. So these are some of the reasons why gossip happens, and it's all rooted in a bad heart. Like, gossip is not good, it's not godly, it's just wrong in all its forms and shapes. You need to be more self-aware, have self-reflections at the end of the day and look at the conversations you've had with people. Be like, are there areas where today I was gossiping? And next time you need to change that. You need to always have to encourage like positive dialogues, be engage in positive dialogues. Don't engage in conversations or discussions that are tearing down others. Just uplift others instead of tearing them down. And you just need to stay away from gossip circles, especially people or environments they'll regularly be speaking about others. And here's the thing, you will notice that a person generally speaks about others more than anything else. Don't have a conversation with that person, because you're just like basically entangling yourself with drama. Let's put it that way. So just like distance yourself from environments and people who they will always speak about others. So be careful not to entertain such groups or such people. And then have meaningful conversations with people without involving gossip about others, so you can model the behavior of not gossiping to others. So if you say something like, is this helpful to speak about? You are modeling something to the person who's gossiping to you, that they should know that what they're saying is not helpful and they should stop, basically. And you can directly address the person and say, hey, this is gossip and it's uncomfortable to me to speak about this. Just like straightforward, or say something like, this is so ungodly and we should not be talking about that person. And it has to be out of respect. You don't need to come out of a place of being so righteous because you're not gossiping or because it's not you who brought the conversation. But again, you need to know that it's out of respect that I'm speaking to you, that this conversation we're entertaining is not helpful, so let's stop, so you can address gossip directly. And there are also other ways where we can speak about someone who's not in the room and it's not gossip. So for example, if there's like an emergency and someone needs like immediate aids, they're like bleeding or they have a broken bone, then you can go ahead and call people, be like, hey, this person. So you're speaking about a person, they're not in the room, but it's not wrong because you need help. Or if you're talking about danger, for example, you might say, hey, I saw a thief outside. You're not going to enter a room and keep quiet about a thief who's outside, who's about to like break into the house and start stealing. Or if you're reporting a crime to the authorities, you're not necessarily gossiping because that's harmful to the people and the society, and that's not wrong. There are times and places to speak about people who are not in the room. And sometimes it's just like something neutral or, something that is not positive or negative about the person, and it's not gossip. Gossip comes in where when you check the heart of the person who's speaking, it's in the wrong place. When you check the tone, it's wrong. And when you check the information, it's negative. That's gossip. Hopefully, this inspires you to stop gossiping, myself included. So I'm also speaking to myself, because sometimes you just fall into the trap without knowing. Sometimes you're just like engaging in stories and you find yourself gossiping, unintentionally. But we can be people who engage in positive dialogues and meaningful conversations rather than people who gossip. I hope this helps. This is the end of our podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode. Let's be people who don't gossip and stay safe. Peace, love, and